right. So today we're going deep into the life of Charles Darwin.
Sounds good.
And, everyone's heard of Darwin.
Right.
But I think this is going to be eye-opening.
Yeah.
And we're using this book, Life of Charles Darwin, by Sam Morgan.
Fantastic book.
Yeah, it's really good.
Really good.
It's actually worth buying. We've got a link in the description.
Yeah, you should get it.
So definitely check it out if you're interested in Darwin at all.
Absolutely.
So
it's interesting.
I think a lot of people think of Darwin as, this kind of
serious
scientist. But
yeah.
He wasn't always that way, was he?
Not at all. No, actually, he started out in medicine.
Oh, really?
He was in Edinburgh studying medicine, and
wow.
The surgeries back then were pretty brutal.
Yeah.
No anesthesia. Just
I can only imagine.
pretty gruesome, as Morgan describes them.
That's why he quit, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, who would want to do that?
Right.
Yeah. So his father was a physician, respected physician.
Yeah.
And
so he wanted him to follow in his footsteps.
He did, yeah. And he was, understandably concerned when Darwin dropped out. Yeah. So steered him towards a more traditional path, which at the time was the clergy.
Okay, so he was going to become a clergyman.
That's right. So off he goes to Cambridge.
Wow. So he went from medicine to
theology.
To potentially becoming a clergyman.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
But, even though he's at Cambridge and he's studying theology, his passion for natural history just keeps bubbling up.
I love that, that he had this kind of...
It's like he couldn't escape it.
Yeah, he couldn't escape it.
Right. And actually, this is where a key figure enters the picture.
Okay.
Professor John Stevens Henslow.
Okay.
Who was a botanist at Cambridge. He becomes Darwin's mentor and really kind of
that's so
nurtures that spark.
Yeah, the mentor that changes everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really profound impact. And, Henslow, he encouraged Darwin to approach his studies with, a systematic and meticulous approach.
Right.
Careful observation, detailed note-taking.
Yeah.
All the habits that would become so essential for him later on.
Yeah.
You can really see how it's all coming together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how does he go from clergyman in training to sailing around the world?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
The HMS Beagle was preparing for this surveying mission to map the coastlines of South America. And they needed a naturalist on board. Right.
Yeah.
So Henslow saw this as a golden opportunity.
Yeah.
And recommended Darwin for the position.
Wow.
But imagine Darwin's dilemma.
Yeah.
This was a 5-year expedition.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Travel back then was no walk in the park.
Okay.
It meant leaving behind family, friends, all the comforts of home for 5 years.
That's a tough decision.
It is.
So what made him decide to go?
Well, the book really dives into Darwin's internal struggle. On one hand, he had the pressure to follow that traditional path.
To be a clergyman.
Yeah, become a clergyman like his father expected.
Right.
But on the other hand, there was this allure of adventure.
Yeah.
The chance to explore the world, to satiate that burning curiosity.
Yeah.
It's a dilemma I think a lot of us can relate to.
Yeah, I think so too.
Choosing between the safe path and the one that calls to our heart.
Totally. And he chose
the
adventure.
He followed his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully for science.
Yes, thankfully for science.
He did. He did.
Yeah.
So when he gets to South America, he's just completely captivated.
He was blown away. I mean, rainforests teeming with species he'd never encountered before.
Wow.
Unique landscapes, unlike anything in England.
Right.
It was a revelation for him.
It's easy to take that for granted today.
It is.
But to see that for the first time?
Yeah, through his eyes.
Yeah.
It must have been incredible.
So the book talks about his time in Brazil.
Yeah.
And he was just overwhelmed by the richness of the ecosystem.
The diversity.
Yeah, and he was seeing all those relationships.
The interconnectedness between plants and their pollinators.
Right.
Those specialized flowers attracting specific hummingbirds and bees.
That's so cool.
He was witnessing evolution in action.
Yeah, even though he didn't realize it yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then he goes to Patagonia.
Patagonia, yeah, which was completely different.
Yeah.
Stark contrast to those lush Brazilian rainforests.
Yeah.
Vast, desolate plains.
Wow.
Rugged mountains.
It's just like another planet.
It must have felt like it, yeah.
And he was finding fossils there?
He was unearthing these remarkable fossils.
Yeah, what were some of them?
Giant ground sloths.
Wow.
Armored glyptodons.
That's awesome.
Creatures unlike anything alive today.
So he's seeing extinction.
He's starting to think about extinction and how life on Earth has changed over these immense periods of time.
Yeah, those Patagonian fossils, I mean, they really got him thinking.
They were a turning point.
Yeah.
You know, they provided this concrete evidence that species weren't fixed,
right?
That life on Earth had this deep and dynamic history.
And then, of course, the Galapagos Islands.
Yeah, the Galapagos.
You can't talk about Darwin without talking about the Galapagos.
Can't you know the place most associated with Darwin's breakthrough?
It's like a living laboratory, isn't it?
It is. Each island with its own unique set of species.
Right.
Perfectly adapted to their environment.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Think about those famous finches.
Oh, yeah.
Different beak shapes on different islands. Perfectly suited to the available food sources.
Yeah.
Darwin started to see that these weren't just random variations. They were clues to a deeper process at work.
Yeah.
A process he would later call natural selection.
So he's starting to put it together.
The seeds of his theory were planted on that voyage.
Yeah. But it would still be years before he really articulated it.
Years of work ahead of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he gets back to England.
Right.
And what happened? I mean, how does he go from...
Yeah, how does he go from...
a ship full of specimens to... On the Origin of Species?
That is a story for part 2 of our deep dive.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to have to...
We'll have to wait for that.
Yeah, we'll have to wait for that. But, I mean, those 5 years on the Beagle...
Transformed him. Completely transformed him.
Yeah. Took him from, you know, this curious naturalist to a...
To a revolutionary.
A revolutionary.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
All right. Well, stay tuned.
Absolutely.
As we continue our deep dive.
Yes.
Into the life of Charles Darwin.
Looking forward to it.
Part 2.
All right. Welcome back.
So last time we left off with Darwin.
Yeah.
Coming back to England.
Back in England after 5 years.
After 5 years.
On the Beagle.
On the Beagle.
Yeah.
And he's got all this stuff.
Oh, tons of stuff.
From all over the world.
Notebooks. Specimens.
Specimens.
Yeah.
I mean, how does he even begin to unpack all that?
Well, you know what's fascinating is that instead of rushing to publish...
Yeah.
He spends years meticulously cataloging, analyzing, comparing his findings.
His dedication.
He's building his case brick by scientific brick.
It's like he's a detective.
It is.
Piecing together.
Solving a mystery.
Yeah. The mystery of life.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
So he's not doing this alone, is he?
No, he enlists the help of other experts.
Like who?
Leading botanists, geologists, zoologists.
Yeah.
He's tapping into this whole network of specialists.
Oh, he's collaborating?
He is.
Yeah.
He's constantly corresponding with other scientists, sharing findings, debating ideas.
So it's not just him alone in a room?
No, not at all. It's a good reminder that great discoveries often emerge from collaboration.
And from talking to other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bouncing ideas around.
Yeah. It's not a solo endeavor.
It rarely is.
Science is a community effort.
A collaborative effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the people he's talking to is Charles Lyell.
Ah, Charles Lyell, yes.
The geologist.
The geologist.
Now I've heard of him.
Very influential figure.
And he wrote a book.
He did his book, Principles of Geology. Was incredibly influential for Darwin.
And it introduced this idea of...
gradual change over immense periods of time.
Okay, so can you break that down for me?
So basically this idea called uniformitarianism. Uniformitarianism. It means that the same geological processes happening today.
Okay.
Things like erosion sedimentation also shape the Earth over millions of years.
Oh.
So think about how a river slowly carves a canyon over time.
Yeah.
That same process over eons could create massive geological formation.
Okay, so it's like slow and steady wins the race.
In a way, yes.
With geology.
So geology.
Yeah.
I like that.
So Lyell's work really provided
a
framework for understanding these vast stretches of time.
Right.
Which is essential for Darwin's theory.
Okay, so I've got Lyell. We've got Darwin.
Yes.
And then there's Thomas Malthus.
Ah, Thomas Malthus. Yeah.
It is the one who wrote about population.
He did. He wrote this essay on the principle of population.
Yeah.
Which was a real aha moment for Darwin.
Okay. So what was it about Malthus's work?
Well, Malthus argued that populations tend to grow faster than the resources available to support them.
Okay.
So there's this inherent competition
right.
for survival.
Not everyone makes it.
Not everyone makes it exactly.
That's just a bit grim.
It is a bit grim.
But it's a key insight for Darwin.
Yeah, because then you've got
this struggle for existence.
Right.
And those individuals with traits that give them an edge, even a slight edge, are more likely to survive and reproduce.
And pass those traits on.
Exactly. And over long periods, those small changes can accumulate, leading to significant differences.
So you're saying that Malthus's work really helped Darwin
absolutely
formulate.
It provided the framework for understanding that struggle for existence.
Right.
And Darwin connected that to the variations he had observed.
Wow.
Leading to his concept of natural selection.
Okay, so he's got Lyell, he's got Malthus, he's got all this information from his trip.
He's got years of research.
Yeah.
He's corresponding with experts.
Yeah.
He's refining his ideas.
He's ready to go.
But he doesn't publish.
Why not?
Well, remember, Darwin was a meticulous scientist.
Yeah.
He wanted to make sure his case was ironclad, supported by mountains of evidence.
Right.
Plus, he knew his ideas would be controversial.
Yeah.
He was challenging deeply held beliefs.
About how life began.
About the natural world.
Yeah.
And humanity's place in it.
And this was a big deal.
It was a paradigm shift, so he was hesitant to just throw it out there without being absolutely sure.
Yeah, I mean, challenging the idea that species were created, like independently and immutably.
That they didn't change, that they were fixed.
Right.
He's saying, no, they evolve.
They change over time.
They change over time. They descend from a common ancestor.
Which is still a radical idea for some people.
It is for some people.
Yeah.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
So what was it that finally made him publish?
A letter from a young naturalist named Alfred Russel Wallace.
Oh, this is where the story gets good.
This is where things get interesting.
Yeah.
Wallace was working independently in the Malay archipelago, and he had arrived at a very similar theory of evolution by natural selection.
No way.
He sends a paper outlining his ideas to Darwin.
Oh, wow.
Asking for feedback.
I bet Darwin was like, what?
I can only imagine what was going through his mind. To see his life's work.
Mirrored
in someone else's research.
That's wild.
It was a pivotal moment.
I must have been like, oh no, I've got
to get this out there.
Yeah.
It made him realize that if he didn't publish soon, he risked losing credit for his groundbreaking work.
That's a good lesson.
It is.
You know, timing is everything.
Timing is everything, even in science.
So he publishes On the Origin of Species.
He does in 1859. The world was never the same.
Boom, mic drop.
Mic drop.
I love it.
Yeah.
What an incredible story.
It is an incredible story.
Yeah.
And the impact was immediate and far-reaching.
I bet.
It sparked intense debate, of course.
Yeah.
But it also ignited a revolution in scientific thought.
Yeah.
And it paved the way for countless new discoveries.
And this is just the beginning for Darwin.
It is.
He doesn't stop there.
He doesn't.
He keeps going.
He continues to refine his ideas, explore new avenues of research.
Like what?
Publishes books on orchids, earthworms.
Wow.
I mean, his curiosity just never waned.
That's what's so amazing about him.
It is inspiring.
Yeah.
To see that boundless curiosity at work.
All right, so we've talked about his journey.
We have.
We've talked about his book.
It's groundbreaking work.
What stands out to you most about all this?
You know, for me, it's the reminder that great discoveries often emerge from unexpected places.
Okay.
It's about embracing diverse experiences, letting curiosity lead us down, uncharted paths, like Darwin's passion for collecting beetles as a boy, those struggles in medical school, that chance encounter with Lyell's work, it all played a part.
In shaping who he became.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
It is.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes me think about our own lives.
It does.
Like, what are those experiences that we've had that we think are unrelated?
Seemingly unrelated. That might actually be...
Shaping us.
Shaping us.
For our future.
Exactly. We might just not have connected the dots yet.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So to our listeners out there, what are those why questions you're pondering? What mysteries are waiting to be unraveled?
What I'm curious about.
Exactly.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
And you never know. You might be the next...
The next Darwin.
Oh, wow.
Changing the world with your insights.
Love it.
Yeah.
And of course, if you want to learn more about Darwin...
Yes.
You got to check out this book.
Life of Charles Darwin by Sam Morgan.
Yeah, we've got a link in the description.
It's a fantastic read.
Yeah, it's really good.
Highly recommend it.
So check it out.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
Into the life of Charles Darwin.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Keep exploring.
Keep those why questions coming.
So welcome back to our deep dive into the life of Charles Darwin. Last time we were talking about On the Origin of Species.
Yeah, his groundbreaking work.
Published in 1859.
1859.
And, talk about making waves.
Oh, absolutely a bombshell.
Yeah.
He knew it would be controversial.
Yeah.
But I think even he was surprised.
Really?
By the intensity of the reaction.
Imagine putting all that work in.
Decades of research, and then just boom,
it
explodes onto the scene.
So it wasn't all positive, though, was it?
No, not at all.
What were some of the things people were saying?
Well, a lot of people felt like his ideas directly challenged, their religious beliefs about creation.
Yeah, he was basically saying that species weren't
fixed, that they weren't, individually created, but rather they were products of this long and gradual process.
Of evolution.
Yeah. And for some people, that was just really hard to accept.
The book talks about this tension between science and faith. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
And Darwin himself wrestled with these questions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was raised in a religious household. He even studied theology at Cambridge.
Right.
But, as his scientific understanding deepened, his doubts about a literal interpretation of the Bible grew stronger.
Yeah, it's almost like the more he studied the natural world.
It's like he couldn't ignore what he was seeing.
The evidence.
The evidence, yeah.
That's so interesting.
It's a powerful reminder that science is about following the evidence.
Wherever it leads.
Wherever it leads.
Yeah.
Even if it challenges you.
Even if it's uncomfortable.
Even if it makes you question everything you thought you knew.
And that's a big part of Darwin's legacy, isn't it?
It is. It's not just about the theory of evolution.
Right.
It's about the power of observation.
Yeah.
The importance of critical thinking.
Asking why.
Asking why, asking how.
Yeah.
And constantly seeking a deeper understanding
yeah.
of the world around us.
And it's not about having all the answers either, is it?
No, not at all.
It's about being open to new ideas.
Exactly. Science is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
It's always evolving.
And Darwin was a great example of that.
He never stopped learning.
He kept publishing books on all sorts of things.
Orchids, earthworms.
It's like he was just
insatiably curious about the world.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Darwin's life,
what
do you think is the most important thing to remember?
I think it's that great discoveries can come from anywhere.
Okay.
It's about embracing those diverse experiences and letting curiosity lead the way.
Just like Darwin.
Just like Darwin.
He was collecting beetles as a kid. He struggled in medical school. He read Lyell's book. It all kind of came together.
It all came together, yeah.
And that's inspiring.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder.
What about us?
Yeah, what about us?
What experiences are shaping us right now?
Exactly what seemingly insignificant things
are
going to lead to some breakthrough?
That's a great question for our listeners.
It is.
What are you curious about?
What are those why questions you're pondering?
Yeah.
What mysteries are you trying to unravel?
You could be the next Darwin.
You could.
It's exciting.
It is.
And of course, if you want to learn more about Darwin, check out Life of Charles Darwin by Sam Morgan.
Fantastic book.
It's a really good read.
It is highly recommended.
We'll put a link in the description.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up our deep dive into the life of Charles Darwin.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And until next time, keep exploring.
Keep those why questions coming.